Hey everyone, so we have been practicing text structures. We know how to identify the 5 text structure types. We know what they are. We know how to look for signal words and how those signal words help us in identifying a text structure of a passage. And we've started working on writing main idea, but we're not fully there. We have another unit on main idea coming up, but we've kind of started at least attempting that. And so now we're going to start our next step, which is actually organizing this information from a text structure. Can we look at a text structure and pull out the information that the author wants us to pull out and put it in an accompanying or an appropriate text structure? And then use that information that we pulled out to then write our main idea, explain the author's purpose, and put all of that together to write a short summary of what the passage is about. So that's kind of our goal here. And so there's a couple different graphic organizers. A graphic organizer is just a shape or picture form that we use to organize information. And so here we have our cause and effect one, and it's just as what you would think. It's just cause on one side, effect on the other, and depending on how many causes and depending on how many effects, it could go more or could go less than this. I know one thing is for sure. I've seen this on every SOL test in the past 8 years. And they'll either be like, okay, what was the effect of this cause, or what two effects were, what caused these two effects, or what did these two causes affect? It's going to be something along those lines. They'll ask it one way or the other. So it's just good to know how to fill these charts in, these graphic organizers in. The next is the Venn diagram. We use this with compare and contrast. You have one topic on one side, one topic on the other, and then the similarities there in the middle. With chronological and sequential, it can be asked one of two ways. Either you'll have like time order depending on that, or you might have step by step by step if it's sequential. Problem and solution, you'll usually refer to that problem and a solution. Sometimes there's more than one solution. And then finally you have description, which will always be a bubble map. In the middle you put your topic, and then you fill in things that explain or describe or inform the reader about that topic. So if we go to our practice pages, here is our first practice page. I'm going to read this one with you together, and we're going to break down each part of it that I would like to break down with you as we go through, and then we're going to fill in, we're going to highlight the signal words, and we're going to fill in the graphic organizer. So in looking here, as I read, you should be thinking about the signal words, looking for causes, looking for effects, but not filling in anything yet. We don't want to jump the gun. We want to read this entire passage first together, and then I'd like you to read it again on your own. So first and foremost, you always want to read the title, right? When wolves disappeared from Yellowstone. So we already know we're going to be in Yellowstone National Park. Wolves are going to disappear, and then since it says when, I'm assuming it's going to explain to us what happened when they disappeared. Right, the cause, they disappeared. What's the effect? So nearly a century ago, the gray wolf was hunted to near extinction throughout most of the United States. This is our cause. This right here. This is the cause of the whole thing. There's no signal word really here, but that's the cause. So everything else after this is basically what happened as a result. This included Yellowstone National Park. Many people were happy to be rid of the wild carnivore. So that's an effect right there. Just people are like, oh my God, we're so happy that this carnivore is gone. They viewed wolves as scary predators that killed ranchers' livestock like cattle and sheep. They believed things would be better without wolves around. Few anticipated the impact the wolf's disappearance would have on Yellowstone's ecosystem. The elimination of wolves had a cascading effect in Yellowstone National Park. A cascading effect means that one change caused something else to change, which in turn led to another change. All of these are going to be effects, right? So the first effect, right, in Yellowstone, the chain reaction started with the elk. Wolves had been predators of elk, which are just large deer. There's more to elk than that, but picture a large deer. By preying on elk, wolves helped regulate the size of the herd. Therefore, without the wolves, the elk population grew. You can imagine, right? The increased number of elk ate a greater amount of vegetation because there's more of them. The elk's overbrowsing young trees and shrubs affected not only the plant life, but other animals as well. So that's our first effect there. Technically our second, because many people were happy, but our first really big effect to the ecosystem of Yellowstone. Young willow saplings were gobbled up before they could develop into sturdy trees. Consequently, beavers had less full-grown willow trees to eat and build their dams out of. As a result, the beaver population declined dramatically. Songbirds then had fewer tall trees to build their nests in. The elk also ate the berries that grizzly bears relied on as a food source. Due to this lack of resources, the population of songbirds and grizzly bears decreased as well. Ravens and eagles also suffered the consequences of the wolves' elimination. The reason ravens and eagles were impacted is that they fed on the carcasses of the elk that the wolves had killed. Wolves were no longer hunting elk, so that food source was scarce. People realized that wolves played a vital role in maintaining Yellowstone's ecosystem between 1995 to 1996. Wildlife officials relocated 31 wolves from Canada to Yellowstone National Park. Since their reintroduction, wolves have contributed to restoring balance to the Yellowstone ecosystem. So, in looking at this, I would like you to read it another time, pause my video, and while you're reading this time, looking for any effect signal words, because there's really no cause outside of the start here. There's no cause signal words. It's just effect signal words. So let's go ahead and read through this and find our effect signal words. I'd love it if you had your notes open to help you looking for effect signal words. So go ahead and pause me and look for them, and then I'm going to highlight them as well. There's our first one right there, effect in Yellowstone. So the elimination of had a cascading effect, and then it explains to you what cascading is. And then therefore, without the wolves, this population began to grow. That's really our first big impactful effect. Consequently, beavers had less full-grown willow trees to eat. As a result, the beaver population declined dramatically due to this lack of resources. And then finally, the reason. Okay, so those are kind of our main ones there that we want to highlight. And you see these are all just effects. So then you come here, all right, and so the gray wolf was hunted to near extinction and disappeared from Yellowstone National Park. So we want to look back here. Well, what was the result of that? And it should be directly near that happening. So the gray wolf was hunted, and that was right here to near extinction. So right after that, many people were happy to be rid of that carnivore. So that's your first thing there is many. Oh my gosh, really? Many people, I cannot type, were happy to be rid of the carnivore. But then you also had the other one, which we've highlighted right here, which was the elimination, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the extinction, the elimination of the wolf, which was that the elk population grew, right? So the elk population grew. Okay, and so because this happened, right, young willow saplings were gobbled up before they could develop into sturdy trees. So if we look here, beavers had less to eat and build their dams, and songbirds could not build their nests. Those two things happened as the young willow saplings were gobbled up. So that's our cause, and that's the effect of that. So the effect here is beavers could not build their dams, and songbirds, learning how to type for the first time, songbirds could not build their nests. Oh my gosh, what am I typing? Okay, that's because the mic's in my way of my hands. All right, moving on here to our last one, our effect is ravens and eagles lost their food source. And I mean, that's just the same thing, because they're no longer ravens. Were impacted because they fed on the carcasses of the elk, right? So there were no longer wolves were no longer hunting elk. And there were less carcasses of elk. Now, our signal words is the other ones that we highlighted, which were effect, therefore, consequently. I'm going to fix that therefore in a second. as a result, due to, and the reason. Just think of the song. You found a reason for me. Anyway, and then here our main idea, like the author, the reasoning the author wrote this. So looking at this, the author wants to show us something with a cause and effect relationship. So the author wrote, and I always want to start about the author wrote the text, or the author wrote the article, or the author wrote this passage, or you could even go as far as the author wrote when wolves disappeared from Yellowstone. So the author wrote the text to show the effects of wolves being eliminated. The effects of wolves being eliminated had the author wrote the text to show the effects of wolves being eliminated from Yellowstone. Oh my gosh, from Yellowstone. I mean, that's why he wrote this. Okay, so we do this because we see each one of these is all about the wolf being eliminated, and each one of these is the problem that was created because the wolf was eliminated. So the author wrote the text to just show how one thing led to another, how getting rid of the wolf led to this. Now, I do not have time to go deep into another one right here. If I feel that we are struggling later in the week, I will go into another one, but I will just look here. Like when I look at this one, which is a compare and contrast, Greenland and Iceland. When you come here, Greenland and Iceland, right? What about Greenland? What about Iceland? When I come here to building the Washington Monument, so we want to go in time order. So 1789, 1832, 1848, 1876, and 1884. Just make sure that it's organized for you. Just make sure you are looking specifically for those dates, and if you highlight those dates, it's going to make it a lot easier when you're doing that. Same thing with this person right here. Just go in the order for when she started, right? These three right there. And I actually might ask us to skip that one and just jump right into Journey of a Letter. Problem and solution, same idea as cause and effect in a way. What was your problem? How do we solve that problem? And then finally, description is one of the easiest ones. You just look for anything that describes that rover, and you look for anything that describes this crayfish. And then in a nutshell, is what we want to look for. I really just broke down the first one here, which was when wolves disappeared from Yellowstone. As always, I will always be around if you have any questions and if you need any help with any of the other reading passages. But this is what we want to start doing with these longer reading passages. When we see them, we want to start picking out the right way to organize them into an appropriate text structure. And then once we organize it, it's going to then move into writing. We're going to then be moving into writing the author's purpose, the author's main idea, and of course the author's, what's my third one? The summary of the passage. This is not going to go away. We are going to continue to practice putting these into graphic organizers when we read these nonfiction passages. So please put in the work now so that it is easier on the back end. All right. If you have any questions, like I said, let me know. Okay. Bye, everybody.